G'day, I'm Paul. People love a fast SUV, so when you make it electric, it also needs to be fast. Look at this. This is the Audi e-tron. We've reviewed this before, but this is now the Sportback, which is the sleeker looking version. But this is also the S, which means it's fast, and it also means that it debuts 3 electric motors for Audi. So that is some pretty impressive performance now there. This competes with things like the Tesla Model X, the Jaguar I-Pace, and the Mercedes-Benz EQC. How much is it? Well, it'll cost you 175 grand or thereabouts. If that's too expensive, the entire Sportback range kicks off at just over 150 grand. So it is a lot of money, but I think it is going to be a lot of car, and I'm looking forward to taking it for a bit of a spin. Today we're going to do a detailed review of this car, so if you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this review, you can use the time codes that are on the screen there, or if you're on YouTube, you get to scroll down and use the chapters below. So you have 7 colours to pick from. It's kind of the German rainbow, nothing too exciting, but they're all free of charge, which is great news. So e-tron, what's it all about? Well, this car shares a platform with the Q7. That means that this is effectively an internal combustion platform that they've turned into an electric one. The fact that they've been able to fit 3 electric motors here, I think, is really impressive. So hopefully that translates to both range and driving performance as well. In terms of the design, you can tell the e-tron apart from other Audis that look kind of the same by this grille. So all of these sections up the top and bottom are closed in. You have a little slit here in the center for cooling, but outside of that, this is all pretty much closed up because you can get aerodynamic benefits out of that stuff. Audi logo up the front here, camera there, and then down here you've got more of that cooling element and e-tron as well, just in case you forget what you're driving. Over on the headlights, you have a set of full matrix LED headlights. Now these are impressive. At night time, they have some excellent projection down the road. They really give you that clarity that you need. Love these as well. This is kind of unique to the e-tron, that segment of LEDs there as well. A little bit of cooling down the side there. I love this little aero element as well. It shoots right towards that wheel. Speaking of the wheel, these are absolute whoppers. So this comes standard with a 21-inch alloy wheel, but this is the optional 22-inch alloy wheel. It is enormous. It also has an enormous set of brakes on it as well. Have a look at those yellow calipers. Low profile tyre. This does have air suspension, which hopefully means that it rides well. So we'll see how we go when we go for a spin. I love just behind here. That looks like a, I don't know what that is. It's like a heat sink or something just behind the rotor. So a pretty cool setup there. You've got these flared wheel arches as well. Given this is the S model, it kind of gives it that sporty intention, makes it stand out a little bit. You've got charging ports on both sides of the car, and I'll run you through how they work shortly. Now this is interesting. Normally up here we talk about this mirror and how big it is and all that sort of stuff, but you've got an indicator built into there, a camera there for the 360 camera, but also a camera here. Now the camera here is designed to give you vision down the side of the car. This is effectively your wing mirror. This comes with aerodynamic benefits, so that means that when you are driving, you've got less resistance acting on the car and you should, in theory, get more range. How well does it work? Well, I don't know. Let's go for a drive and we'll find out because, I don't know. I don't love the sound of it, but we'll see how it goes. You've got chrome around the sides there. You've also got a moonroof up the top there, privacy glass, and then come around to the back. So Sportback means you get to this point and then they chop the back of it off. This gives it that sportier appearance. It will come at the cost of a little bit of boot room, but for the most part, it actually makes the car look very sporty, and it kind of suits it given it is wearing the S badge over there. You get this boot lip spoiler built into here, this LED light that travels all the way across the back with these LED segments over on the side as well. Audi logo just here, e-tron S badge just there. As you go down, they've obviously had to consider removing exhausts from this type of design. So they've split up the bottom sections of the bumper with this sort of grey section there, and then more grey down the bottom, and obviously no exhaust. Shark fin aerial up the top there as well, and then a brake light integrated right up the top of the glass there. So let me know what you think about the design. Do you think this looks good? Do you prefer the standard e-tron or the Sportback version? Let me know in the comment section below. So we're inside the e-tron. We'll start with the key. Here it is here. So lock, boot, unlock, Audi, piano black, just in case you needed some more of that in your life. Piano black on the back as well, and then an S logo just there. It's a proximity sensing key, so you can leave that in your pocket. Once you're inside, you have a push button start. Now, what about this interior? Let's go through the things I like. So I like this material up the top here. It's like a, I don't know what that is. It feels like carbon, but it's, yeah, I don't know, but it's cool. I like that. It's a little bit different to just your standard wood grain. Then up the top there, you've got soft touch materials and then like this stitched leatherette material and soft touch through here as well. There is a fair bit of piano black around the edges of these screens. And I do find as well this really odd. There's no cover for all this, so this is just permanently open. And I just find that a really strange setup. I don't know why they wouldn't just put a cover in there, but anyway, that is what it is. What about our touch points? So this is firm there and firm on the door as well. How firm are they? Well, we've got our durometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you want to see how this car compares to others, have a look at the link in the description. Build quality. Yeah, this is all nice and strong. And what about our door? Yeah, that sounds really nice as well. Let's talk about infotainment. So it's all powered by this 10.1-inch screen up the top here. Now this is an interesting screen because yes, it's high resolution, it's nice and snappy and all that sort of stuff, but it actually features haptic feedback. So as you press onto some of these items, you feel a little click on your finger as you navigate through them, which I think is pretty cool. It's a nice little innovation, and then while you're driving and you're doing stuff, you know that you've done the command right because you can feel a return on your finger there. So yeah, in terms of the features, so you have a shortcut menu up the top here. This is connected to the internet, so it gets updates and does all that sort of fun stuff. You can see here there's a map update available for the car. It also can act as a wireless hotspot as well. Has satellite navigation built into it. That's nice and quick as well, no dramas there. In terms of smartphone mirroring, you have both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That is wireless. Have a look at that. Very nice, very quick. Good little integration there. I'll show you what Android Auto looks like. So again, we've got a full screen integration. Nice and snappy as well. Very impressive Audi. What about your audio? Have a look at this. So if we go to radio, you have AM, FM and DAB digital radio, and that's all plumbed through a 16-speaker Bang & Olufsen branded sound system. It is a fantastic sound system, so if you're into your music, you're going to absolutely love that. What else have we got here that I can show you? Look, outside of that, the rest of this is pretty straightforward. You have Bluetooth for your phone. There's a weather app built into here. It's going to be telling us that it is bloody freezing where we are right now, and that it's probably going to rain again for the 10th time today. There it is. So yes, cloudy and very cold as well. So let's have a look at the screen here below the main infotainment screen. Down here, you've got an 8.6-inch display. Now this one also has haptic feedback, and this is where you control things like your climate. So when you do switch that on, you can see this is how you drive climate up and down. You can swipe your finger like that if you need to, or you can just push those controls. In addition to that, you can also customize what appears in this favorites menu here. And this is also where you can bring up additional context menus such as your fragrance pumping into the cabin and also things like your head steering wheel and stuff. So it's a nice setup. There is a lot going on here, so while you're driving it can be a little bit distracting, but I think once you own the car and get used to it, it's actually not too bad. Final screen we're going to talk about, actually second final, I'll run you through the final one in a second, is this one here. So just over 12 inches in size. Virtual cockpit, again, super high resolution screen, and you can flick between a number of different views and styles here depending on what mood you're in, and that is so fast. The other thing I don't love about it is I don't see navigation items if I do have smartphone mirroring running, so it is a little bit disappointing there's no interaction between the two, but it does bring up your navigation if you do have the inbuilt system active. Finally, this is the other screen I wanted to tell you about, the mirrors. So this is where you now look down the side of the car. Instead of looking out the window there at a mirror, to look down the side of the car, you look here. You've got one on each side, and then you can adjust that view while you're driving. Does it work? We'll wait till we go for a drive, but I don't know. I don't think I'm sold on it just yet. We'll see how we go. What about your safety tech? You've got AEB that works forwards, reverse. You've got an auto dimming rear vision mirror. You have a lane departure warning, a lane keeping assistant, radar cruise control, blind spot monitoring, which is kind of just this little bit that comes up on the corner here. You have rear cross traffic alert. Then on the parking front, you have both front and rear parking sensors and a 360 camera. I'll show you what that looks like. That's looking out the back there. You can see the view of that is pretty good. We can see our suitcase nicely. You can then adjust the views if you want. So you've got a 3D view where you can whip around the car. You see a little replica of our car there. You then have a bunch of other views that you can then choose within that 3D view. Then you've got all of these other angles as well that you can flick through as you go. So yeah, plenty there to choose from. So it's a pretty impressive setup there on the 360 camera. Quality of it is good. You can see there when you zoom in a little bit, it's kind of tiny bit pixelated, but for the most part, it's a pretty impressive system. Now, what about your practicality? And we'll start off with the connectivity. So you have a 12-volt outlet down the bottom here, 2 USB-C ports. What about your phone storage as well? So it can easily slot down here. There's another sort of slot down there for it as well, but I don't think there's any wireless phone charging, which is pretty disappointing if you ask me. We've got storage down here and also a center console. Coffee cup that can live down here. You've actually got these retractable teeth with rubber elements in them. So when you do put a drink in there, it's not going to go anywhere. I'll show you what it looks like with our drink bottle as well. Look at that, slots in nicely. This also fits inside the door without any problems. What about our big bottle? See if Big Bertha fits inside the door. Yeah, it fits in there without any issues at all, which is quite impressive. What about your other storage? Now down here, you have a big old storage slot for who knows what, but you can literally reach all the way into that, which is great. And then finally, you have a glove box over here, which is pretty generously sized as well. Moving on to comfort. So diamond quilted leather seats, very nice with S emblazoned in there. Love this red interior too. It looks really nice and it's not over the top like some red interiors can be. You've got dual zone automatic climate control up the front here. Heated seats. You have a heated steering wheel. You also have fragrance and ionization. In terms of the seats themselves and the adjustments, fully electrically adjustable for driver and front passenger. So you can go forwards, backwards. Backrest can go forwards, backwards. You can lift the base of the seat at the front and the back, and then you have lumbar adjustment. This extends as well. Memory for the driver. Steering adjustment is entirely manual for tilt and reach. On our reach test, all of this stuff is easy to reach while we're driving. So second row, before I go through the room, I just want to run you through these door handles. So these use an electronic strike. So as you pull that, the door pops open. There is an emergency release if you just keep pulling it harder, but big advantage of this is your kids can't run out if there's another car or cyclist coming. It just won't let them open the door, and all this flashes when that happens. So very impressive stuff. On room, we have loads of knee room. Toe room is okay. Headroom is not too bad. What else have we got? So I like the quality here with the Alcantara in the doors on the front and here in the second row, and that leather continues there as well. Feels just as premium here in the second row as it does at the front. You've got mat pockets, air vents, third and fourth zones of climate control, heated seats, 2 USB-C ports down the bottom and a 12-volt outlet. You have a sunshade here, a center armrest, you've got a little bit of storage there, then you have 2 cup holders here, that fits into there nicely, and then fits inside the door as well. You've got ISOFIX points on your 2 outboard seats with 3 top tether points. Then what about our window test? Let's give that a shot. Auto up and down. That is so pointless. Only goes like 3/4 of the way down. Let's talk cargo space. You have a little over 600 litres available here. Yeah, look, it's an interesting boot because the lip is really high off the ground. So when you are loading stuff in, you kind of have to throw it over the lip to get it in. And then the boot floor sits quite high as well. But there is storage off to the sides here. You've got these hooks as well. And then if you actually have a look under here, you do have quite a depth of storage there for things like charging cables and the like. And then you have a space saver tie here that inflates and pops out to the size you need it to be. What does it look like with our bags in there? Let's give this a shot as the sun comes out. So there's that bag, and this one. Yeah, look, it's not too bad, but you can see there, once you load that stuff in, you've pretty much reached the limit of your boot there. And then what you can do, if you do want a little bit more space, you can drop the second row, but there's no release levers here, so you have to lean all the way in, awkwardly release the lever and push them forward, or manually go around to your second row. So not exactly the most practical solution, but when you do that, you get just under 1,700 litres of space. And then in addition to this stuff here, you have 60 litres worth of cargo space within the front boot. Now, before we go for a drive, let's talk about charging. So you have this very fancy electric cover that drops down. You've got two charging slots on the car. So one on this side, one on the passenger side as well. I don't love the location of these simply because, yes, it is handy to have two sides, but you kind of have to drape things over the car if it's a short, fast charging cable. And then in addition to that, only this side offers AC and DC charging. The other side is just AC charging. Now, in terms of your charging, on the AC front, it comes standard with 3-phase 11 kilowatt charging, but you can option a faster 22 kilowatt 3-phase charger, which I think is great. Then on the DC front, this allows you to charge it up to 150 kilowatts DC. Not really amazing, given that a lot of other competitors in this segment are now offering much faster charging. Even something like the Model 3 long range will do up to 250 kilowatts worth of charging. So I think this technology could be a little bit better in that regard. In terms of the battery, it's just under 100 kilowatt hours. And the cool thing with the battery is that there's 36 battery modules. Each of those is individually cooled and each can be individually replaced if it fails or degrades over time. So I think that's a pretty clever innovation, and it means you get longevity out of the battery pack as opposed to it just being an entirely replaceable thing like it is in a lot of other cars. So I've just hit the road in the e-tron Sportback. It's quiet. I know I say this every time we jump in an EV, but it is good that they have the basics right, especially on a 22-inch tyre. I know we're only doing a low speed at the moment, but it is quiet, which is good news. Now, the S really steps it up a notch. I mentioned in the intro that this debuts a tri-electric motor setup. So I know that Tesla is now using that kind of arrangement too, but these guys are quite early on in the game with it, which means you get one electric motor on the front axle and then two electric motors on the rear. And that gives them the ability to really just pump a lot of torque down this drive line in effect. And it also means it can actually do proper torque vectoring at the rear because you have one electric motor able to do something while the other does something else. So it is a proper sort of torque vectoring system, but fully electronic instead of being mechanical. Now, what does that produce? So 370 kilowatts of power and just under 1,000 Newton meters of torque when you are in boost mode, and you activate boost mode by hitting the kick down switch when you get on the throttle. If you don't have boost mode running though, it's 320 kilowatts, which is still pretty reasonable in my book, I reckon. Where you will notice the big difference though, when it comes to converting those power figures into getting perception in your mind about how quick this is when it comes to the weight. So again, I mentioned in the intro, this is an internal combustion platform that's been converted to electric. And as a result of that, you don't get the efficiencies that you do when you go straight electric in terms of your platform. And as a result of that, it weighs around 2,700 kilograms. That is absolutely enormous. And it seems kind of illogical making battery packs bigger and bigger to make these cars go further and further when all they end up doing is weighing an enormous amount. So I'll be interested to see when we go for a bit of a fang whether that affects the way that this thing handles. How does it all feel? So we're in comfort mode at the moment. As you roll onto the throttle, it all feels perfectly fine, and as you roll on harder, it does all the electric car stuff by jamming you back in your seat. The interesting thing I'm going to point out here as well is our regen mode. So you can see it just there. It doesn't quite act like a single pedal driving type arrangement like you do find in Nissan Leaf, some of the Hyundai products, and also Tesla. It basically comes down to a low speed and then rolls from there. You do have an auto regen setting though, and that's meant to look at GPS data and predict when you do need to come to a complete stop. I find that it really doesn't work very well, especially if you do want to take over your regen, because every time you input something, it's overridden immediately after. So I don't know, the mode really needs some work, and I prefer just a simple single pedal driving setup, so I can just roll out of the throttle, it will come to a complete stop, and then I can just take off again. Let's talk efficiency. So in the EV world, efficiency is measured by watt hours per kilometre or kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres. This car has an official rating of 26 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres. If we were to convert that to car terms, that is very high compared to other vehicles. And if you have a look at our consumption, it is also pretty high, 30.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres. That really isn't that impressive. That means over 300 kilometres of driving, you're basically going to completely drain the battery. So that's a realistic driving range of around 300 kilometres, which I don't know, I just don't think that's all that impressive when your car is costing almost $200,000. So let's talk digital mirrors. That is where I'm getting my vision. I don't really love it, if I'm honest. I'm used to looking there for a mirror, so okay, let's adjust that and look further down. Problem is, it's not natural, so your vision is straight out the front there. You need to check your wing mirror. You have to then look down towards that. At night time, the vision is okay, but not amazing. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it's a very good setup, and I find that, you know, this type of thing, they just shouldn't implement it until it's perfect, and I just don't feel it's perfect just yet. Okay, let's dial this up to maximum highway speed here in Australia, 130 kilometers an hour, to see how it performs on our sine waves. I can tell you right now that the ride, despite this being on 22-inch alloy wheels, is fantastic. The air suspension, adaptive damping setup really just gives this just comfort and just feels like a Rolls Royce. It is really impressive. So here come our sine waves. Wow, that is good. Yeah, despite its weight, it has excellent body control and it just floats over those without any problems at all. So very impressed with that. Now, in terms of your drive modes, you select them down here with the drive select button. It is a little bit distracting because you've got to take your eyes off the road, go all the way down here, find this button, press it, then look up at this screen and select the drive mode that you want. So you've got everything from off-road, which jacks the ride height up, to all-road, which is for a little bit of off-roading, efficiency, comfort, auto, dynamic, individual. There is a little bit of everything in there. So let's pop this into sport mode, which is dynamic. Suspension comes down, steering gets heavier, the ride gets firmer. Punted around our corner, we have access to boost mode now as well. Now it is very wet out here at the moment, so a little bit careful. Far out, that has got some road holding. So it is a whopper of a thing, you know, almost 2.7 tons, but it is holding on nicely to the road there. Looks probably not as fast as I thought it was going to be in terms of the acceleration. You know, Tesla has about that 1,000 Newton meters of torque when you look at something like a Model S Performance, but this doesn't feel like it's as punchy even when boost mode is active, and I think that is courtesy of all the weight that it's lugging around. But once the speed picks up, it is actually sitting pretty flat through corners. Yeah, it's interesting. You have confidence in it, and that sort of torque vectoring setup they have on the rear axle just allows it to tuck in through some of these higher speed corners. Give it a punch on the back straight here. I've got that pin to the board, and I can see the boost counting down. It's limiting our ability to keep the foot in that. But look, it actually picks up speed and moves fast. It just doesn't feel like it's doing it quickly. It's a bit hard to explain, but yeah, look, I think this is fun to drive and engaging. And look, if you do switch everything off, it can do drifty sort of things as well. It's not strictly just all-wheel drive, so it is fun in that regard as well. Audi claims a 0 to 100 time of 4.5 seconds. This is how it went up against our stopwatch. So what's your visibility like? This sits sort of higher off the ground, and as a result of that, I can see pretty clearly down the front there. It's got very much an SUV proportion when you're sitting inside. Visibility down the side, so we've already talked about our sort of side digital mirrors, and you know, the visibility is okay. You can see quite far down the side there. It's just the placement of that, it's not great. Visibility out the back isn't amazing. It's a very narrow envelope, so it is a little tricky to see, but you do have all of the sensors and all the parking stuff there to make this easy to park in and around the city. The turning circle comes in at a little over 12 meters, and there is a towing capacity, so you can tow 1,800 kilograms with a braked trailer, but keep in mind, given that this has limited range already, if you do whack a trailer on the back, it's really going to bring that down even further. Perfect timing, just as the rain starts. e-tron S Sportback, what do we reckon? Look, I did like this more than I liked the original e-tron that I drove. This still doesn't have a great deal of range though. I mean, realistically, it's about 350 Ks of real driving range, and then when you do go harder with it, it will drain very quickly. And that all comes due to the fact that this isn't really a proper EV ground up platform. It is an internal combustion car that has EV components in it. So that is a little bit disappointing, but from a performance point of view, it does handle pretty nicely for a car that weighs almost 2.7 tons. You can kind of throw it around a bit and have some fun with it, and it has plenty of throttle response as well. Heaps of room inside, and it's just typical Audi. It looks and feels like any other luxury Audi on the road. So when you are spending this kind of money, you actually are getting a nice return inside the cabin. So let me know what you reckon in the comments section below. Do you own an e-tron? Have you had a crack in one of these? What do you think? Is it the future of Audi and motoring in general? If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and you share it with your mates. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, take it easy.